All systems go. Clear for liftoff.
What day is it? What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the SHIPIT Nation Thursday college football show. We don't typically have shows on Thursday, Friday, midweek stuff, but it's week one. We're excited. There's a lot of football going on this weekend, and we couldn't leave y'all hanging. My name's Bill. Put $1 in front of it. You'll find me on Twitter and Discord. And I have a bonus guest today, joined by my good friend and colleague Kenny, better known in Discord and at the top of the leaderboards on DraftKings as HamHawk41. How's it going today, Kenny?
It's a great day. First, or week one college football, a ton of games. Huskers play today, Gophers play today. Can't ask for much better.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason too of having you on for this show specifically is because both of our teams are playing. We're both repping our team's colors. And it looks like we have quite a few people in the chat already. Welcome, and I'm glad you guys could make it midday on a work day. I see we got Marty in the chat. We got Go Collect's always here. Michael Rice, Coach Sav, Brett, Colin, Warren, Drew, Michael. What's going on, everybody? Glad to have you here. We're going to dig head first, knee deep, whatever you want to say, into college football today. But first, I do want to mention that we have some pretty special things going on at SHIPIT Nation. You'll see right here at the top of our homepage, we have our football early bird special. That's still going on through September 3rd. You can still get in on that. $349 for a football package, which does include college football. That's why I love talking about it. But it includes SaberSim, one of our new partners. It's going to get you the Stone projections, ownership, slate plans, education courses, core reports. And the added bonus is until September 3rd, it will have all access. Even if you just get the football package, so you can check out MLB and just see what the content looks like. You can see what the NASCAR content looks like. There's still a couple other sports going on before we get into football. And the other nice thing about this football only package is it will get you into the SHIPIT games, the Willy Wonka Golden SHIPIT ticket. It's a contest throughout the NFL season that's going to give you an opportunity to go to a quote unquote live final. And it's all through SHIPIT Nation. If you become a member, you are going to earn ballots that give you opportunity to get SHIPITs. There's going to be 3 different ways to earn golden tickets. And this is the prize pool as of right now. You can see the top prize at the end of the season is $20,000. Second place is $10,000. And it includes a couple other perks that come with it. The nice thing is this game number 2, Share a Ship. It's a ballot winner that's going to enter into the $333 Wildcat through Tambo. And part of those winnings are going to obviously go to the ballot winner, but it's going to go into this prize pool. So this prize pool currently at almost $80,000 is only going to go up. So now is definitely the time to get into SHIPIT Nation and get involved in this. And I won't take you through all of this, but if you go to SHIPIT Nation, you'll see the SHIPIT Games or SHIPITgames.com. You can find it all on there. And then another special thing we're doing, if you go to SHIPITnation.com, go to logos, you'll see these 2 approved logos at the top and the winner's circle by SaberSim on your screen. If you're familiar with SaberSim, you know about the winner's circle already, but basically they are allowing our SHIPIT Nation members to become part of their winner's circle. So if you're rocking one of those approved logos, these winner's circle prizes are up for grabs. Basically, if you score $1,000 or more on a DraftKings contest or a DFS contest that is at least 10 times your entry fee and you end up in the top 5, you qualify for these prizes. Like if you score $1,000 and win a GPP, you get a month free of SHIPIT Nation SaberSim. Prizes, as you go up in your winnings on the DFS websites, the prizes go up as well. And they even let us get in on the Rolex promotion for the $1 million winner. We've had 4 million makers here at SHIPIT Nation. So we're always looking for more. All in all, Kenny, this is just so many signs that now's the time to get in on SHIPIT Nation.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's awesome that we're doing something like this unique. And I mean, how many sites where you can get a subscription and maybe walk away with $20,000 at the end of the year? It's pretty exciting and new and different. And yeah, I think it's awesome.
Yeah, and that's the one thing that we always talk about at SHIPIT Nation. We're always looking to improve our product, and we're always looking to give back to our members because we have one of the best communities in all of DFS. I think it's the best. And that's the other thing, too, is it gets you into the Discord, which is not only fun, but it's incredibly important, especially for college football with the injury news. So definitely something you're going to want to get in on. And if you're itching for NFL and waiting to pull the trigger on a membership to a site, or if you're looking at switching sites, like I said, $349 for the entire season, and you get the early bird special with all access, and you get to play a little college football this weekend and check out all our content there too. Speaking of, we have a slate to get to, but before we get into our game-by-game breakdown, I do want to talk about how week one is so vastly different from the rest of the season because we have no data. I mentioned it in the week 0 video. Don't let anybody tell you they know exactly what these rotations are going to be, that they know exactly how exactly to project these players. I do think we have the best team at SHIPIT Nation. We have the greasiest, sweatiest tryhards, Kenny and myself included, looking into everything. But we're not going to know everything until they step onto the field. And in college football, we don't know everything basically the entire season. Nobody knows everything. Some of us know nothing. But here at SHIPIT Nation, I believe have a top tier team. So Kenny, you're more of a MME GPP player when it comes to college football. How do you approach a slate like this where there's so many unknowns, the rotations, teams release depth charts, but sometimes they don't make a difference? How do you approach it as a GPP player?
I mean, honestly, I kind of embrace slates like this, like just the unknown. It's the perfect time to take a shot on the projected third wide receiver on a team that could be the first or anything like that. It's almost like if I see a really high owned wide receiver from a team and there's some unknown, it's kind of easier just to get off that play and try someone else in the large field GPP. So I totally embrace the volatility of it, playing large field. So yeah, that's why in a way, week one's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun too. And there's some upside in these guys that aren't as high on the depth chart.
Yeah, and we know there's no such thing as a sure lock, but there are pretty close when you get into the season in college football. But especially in week one, nowhere close to a lock. I mean, look at Daniel Highshaw last week. He looked like he should have been in every single lineup that you played. And LaShawn Williams scored the touchdown, and that's just the way it works in week 0 and week 1. All right, so we'll get into it. Wyoming at Akron. We have a 5.5-point spread. The road team, Wyoming, is the favorite. I do have a quick anecdote, maybe the weirdest revenge narrative since I've started covering college football. So Wyoming's coach, Jay Sawvel, and Akron's coach, Joe Moorhead, played each other in the Big Ten almost a decade ago. I remember it well because Sawvel was the D coordinator at Minnesota, and Moorhead was the offensive coordinator for Penn State, a Saquon Barkley team, Chris Godwin, Mike Gesicki. The Gophers had no business being in that game. They were up at halftime, almost beat them, blew it late, lost in overtime. They held Saquon to 60 yards. But the reason I bring it up is because recently Jay Sawvel said he still thinks about it at least once a week, and he's out for blood. So it's a long way to get to a revenge narrative, but narratives are fun in DFS. So that's something you can look at. But we have Caden Anderson, a returning big body quarterback. He played well last year. If it means anything to you, he played behind Quinn Ewers in high school. I just had to figure out a way to get Quinn Ewers into the stream early on. And then we have Sam Scott, a lot of hype coming out on him during camp. But really any of these guys behind him. Samuel Harris is a true freshman that could see the field. Coaches are high on him. The wide receiver room, again, we have returning players like Sargent, and I always want to say Jake Gyllenhaal when I see this guy's name, but it's John Michael Gillenberg. Chris Durr's returning. Michael Fitzgerald's a starter. Evan Svoboda used to be quarterback. Caden Anderson took over for him, so now he might be throwing him passes. And then on the Akron side, Ben Finley's returning. He's super cheap. Sean Patrick sounds like he's going to start at min price, and we're looking for value on the slate. And then Alex Adams is back after a year off. Kyan Mason has been getting a lot of buzz. Miles Walker's been getting a lot of buzz. These are two bad teams, Kenny, but bad teams don't always mean bad for DFS. How are we attacking this game?
I think it's a little sneaky, especially getting a home dog. I don't know if this game's just going to be really sloppy or it might be so sloppy that it's good. there's really not much ownership except for maybe Sean Patrick might get a little steam. But yeah, all in all, I think it's a sneaky game to target. I don't know if I'd overly stack it just because both teams are kind of slow. But yeah, it's kind of a not the most exciting game to start the slate, but there's some interesting spots.
Yeah, and we know that, I should mention in case, it plays into these players' attitudes. Akron is banned from postseason play this year because their grades have been so bad the last few years. So they're just playing for pride at this point. But Wyoming should be the better team. It's just a tough road game traveling across a couple time zones. So, but yeah, I believe you're right. There's absolutely some pieces you want to target here. And options to run back a stack if you're getting real greasy on this slate. Yeah, I think that's probably it from that game. A much more fun football game, a rematch of the bowl game last year, East Carolina and North Carolina State. It's a 14-point spread. North Carolina State is the better team on paper, especially. The thing that sticks out to me most with this game, Kenny, is how tough pricing is. If you want to play CJ Bailey or Caden Hauser, and the running back room in East Carolina, we could see 6 guys potentially. Smothers' price looks pretty nice. Rogers and Jolie are fine. The wide receivers for East Carolina are pretty well set, but again, they're expensive. We do have value in other places if you want to play this game, but how do you see, these prices impacting how you play your lineups?
It's definitely tight priced. It's a lot easier on the North Carolina State side with that 37-point total to kind of eat the pricing, but there is a spot where one of these wide receivers for East Carolina could have a ceiling game. I definitely don't mind taking some shots in GPPs. So yeah, these teams played in that bowl game last year. So I was looking last night. There's a big brawl at the end of the game, and there's some NC State players that are suspended for the first half. I believe there's one of their starting tackles and a starting interior defensive lineman. I can't remember exactly who, but and these teams played in the regular season like 2 years ago. So I mean, it's kind of a rivalry brewing here. We could see some chippy stuff. Both teams are going to be kind of maybe a little more motivated than usual. But yeah, all in all, it's a fun game. East Carolina did win the bowl game last year. So could be competitive, could be a blowout. I don't know how it's going to come out. I guess, and obviously Hollywood Smothers, one of the best, if not the best running back play on the slate. NC State over the years has kind of been like they rotate their best guy out when they shouldn't as much. And that's like really the only path to failure for Smothers for me is if like Jaden Scott or even DeAndre Desner, like they get a little more work than we are projecting. Just because of what NC State has done in the past. But all in all, fun game. Yeah, I don't know if we'll get another brawl, but who knows? They just played each other basically the last game they played, so should be fun.
I'm sure the fumes are still hot from those guys that were in that game and still here, and especially when those guys that are suspended when they come out in the second half, look for them to have a little extra energy. And Paul's right. Jolie's finally priced up. I remember playing him at 4,000, 4,200 last year when he was because he and Bailey did form quite a close relationship, at least on the field. But yeah, that $6,300 price tag does make it a little bit more, hesitant to completely pull the trigger on him like we would have last year. All right. So we have Jacksonville State at Central Florida. And chat, if you see or if you have any questions about any of these games as we're going, we're happy to answer them in the moment while we're discussing the games. It's good to see 57 people here on a weekday, man. That's awesome. I'm glad you guys could make it. And hit the like button. We love that. It's free for you and great for us, and it allows us to keep providing this kind of free content. Even if you're watching after the fact, I understand it's a work day. So if it's just before lock and you're watching this, or if it's 2 p.m., whatever, wherever you are, let's get those likes up. And we'll go on to the next game. What a transition. Transitions are firing hot already early in the season. Go Collect has an AirPod in under his drive-through headset. I love it. I'm a procrastinator at work too sometimes when I get this content. Jacksonville State at UCF, not an in-state rivalry. Jacksonville is in Alabama for this team. But we have some new faces in new places. It's a 20.5-point spread, so I don't know how much we care. Gavin Wimsatt is a name you recognize if you played DFS the last few years. He was at Rutgers. He was at Kentucky. He was actually Kentucky's third leading rusher last year, even though Brock Vandagriff was a starting quarterback for so much of the season. And then Cam Cook is a TCU transfer who never really seemed to get there at TCU, at least last season. Andrew Paul was here last year. He's a solid returner. But then you got like Brock Rechsteiner, DeAndre Johnson. Caleb Coombs is in from Marshall. And, Johnson and Coombs are cheap. I don't know how much stock we can put into Jacksonville State here. And then Michael Petway is a returning player who's maybe their best wide receiver on the team, but he's banged up, so we don't know if he's going to play. And they did bring in a new coach, Charles Kelly, but he's a defensive coach. The one thing is the O coordinator came from Marshall, and he had the Rasheen Ali-led offense. So if we know anything about that offense, there's a lot of ground game. And then on the UCF side, a name that you are very familiar with is Scott Frost. He took a few years off of college football after was it his fault? Was it the school's fault? Either way, that program kind of hit a big lull for a few years. But they have some new faces as well. Cam Fancher is in from FAU. They have three guys, Taven Jackson and Ja'Curry Brown, that could all see the field, but Frost was pretty confident in naming Fancher as starter. Miles Montgomery's back. He was solid. He came in from Cincinnati, but he was just behind RJ Harvey, which that's a pretty tough player to, get playing time over. And then Jaden Nixon's in from Western Michigan by way of, or previously at Oklahoma State. He was part of a timeshare last year and still rushed for almost 1,000 yards. So that's something to watch. He should be involved. Tavion Swint is a 4-star freshman. He was Florida's highest rated running back recruit, and I know they want to get him the ball early. And then this wide receiver room, I'm going to blow through all of this just because there's so many new guys in this rotation. We have Dwayne Speedy Thomas, apparently is his nickname, in from Charlotte. DJ Black was at South Carolina, went to JUCO for a couple of years, earned the starting gig. Marcus Burke and Waden Charles are listed as co-starters. A lot of guys going to Marcus Burke today because he's been priced and he's in from Florida. I mean, it's never got into the rotation completely. A lot of minds think that he's going to be heavily involved in this offense. Waden Charles is a 4-star true freshman, so that his upside. And then we have Chris Dahmerkant from Chattanooga, Carl Jenkins Jr., another 4-star freshman, depending on where you look. Dylan Wade is a tight end transfer from Maryland. And so Jordan, last time Scott Frost was here, Jordan Akins had a huge year, so the tight end could be involved. This is one of those you really have to wait and see, but there are some cheap options on this UCF team.
Yeah, I don't know. I still have some scar tissue from Scott Frost here. Like it would not shock me at all if UCF came out flat as a board and lost to Jacksonville State. Scott Frost took losses against Troy and Georgia Southern when he was at Nebraska. I mean, obviously both home games early in the season. And I was actually at the Troy game, and it was the grossest thing it was like 110 degrees on the field. It was terrible. But yeah, Jacksonville State's kind of interesting with the new staff. I don't know how much like the offensive last year will translate to this year, but I mean, God, and I can't remember their starting quarterbacks for the life of me, but he was a heck of a runner last year. Wimsatt's always kind of been a runner. This game has some projected rain. I think it'll be maybe like it's a weather forecast and it's Florida, but it looks like it might be a little sloppy at the beginning of the game and the rain will tail off. I don't know how sloppy it's going to get. But it wouldn't shock me at all if UCF came out flat and Jacksonville State was actually able to produce some stuff. I'm not really interested in the receivers for Jacksonville State. I kind of just like maybe the rushing upside of Wimsatt. And then, as far as like UCF goes, they have a 37-point total. They're pretty solid plays. I just have that scar tissue from Scott Frost. Like I could just see this team coming out flat as a board, not ready to play, just like he did at Nebraska. I mean, it happened constantly at Nebraska. I just kind of thought of something. Scott Frost's first game at Nebraska, there was a rain delay and the game ended up not being played. Wouldn't that be a deal if we got some lightning tonight and the rain wouldn't let off and he didn't get to play his first game or coach's first game at UCF either? But yeah, it's UCF's definitely like good plays. They project well. But I just could see him coming out flat and possibly failing it across the board. But yeah, that's what I think there.
Yeah, it would be the ultimate if we could get some light. It's not out of the question either with the current forecast. But yeah, Jacksonville State with, Clint Trickett being a run first coordinator at Marshall. Last year, Jacksonville State, you mentioned, is Tyler Huff and Trey Stewart. Yeah, Tyler Huff and Trey Stewart were RB1 and RB2 basically. So we could see the same thing with Wimsatt and Cook. And like you said, if they come out flat early and Jacksonville State gets up 14-0, they might run the ball even more. It's not out of the question. And it's definitely a way to get different on this slate too. So, one of those things that could win you a GPP if you hit it. All right. I'm going to need you to hold the reins a little bit on this one because there's a lot of national attention coming out on the Buffalo Bulls, 17.5-point underdogs to the home team, Minnesota. On the Buffalo side, we were chatting a little bit before we came on. The MAC has historically played the Big Ten tough early in the season, Minnesota being one of those teams that lost as like a 20-point favorite a few years ago. But I also feel like most of the time it's Bowling Green doing it. They played Penn State tough last year. They were the team that beat Minnesota a few years ago. So I don't know that that's going to be the case today, but Buffalo's not going to roll over. Taquan Robertson is a guy who has been dubbed as someone who abuses the transfer portal. He was at Penn State, then UConn, then Kansas State, and now he's here. Hasn't really done much, but he can run, and they had CJ Agbana last year, and they have the same head coach and offensive coordinator, so we might see a little bit more of the run game from him. And then L.J. Henderson's a name if you played DFS last year. I don't know if this is the matchup. He is a workhorse if they're going to continue with the same sort of offense they ran a year ago. These other guys, Mark Anthony Scott is technically a wide receiver, but he's a running back on DraftKings. And then Victor Snow was a target hog last year, but mostly because Nick McMillan was hurt. And then Josiah Gathings was at Akron, went to UConn, and now he's back in the MAC. I don't know that you're looking at much here, especially I don't know if you want a $6,000 MAC wide receiver on the road against a Big Ten team that, even when they're bad, has a pretty stout defense. And then on the Minnesota side, all right, buckle up, everybody. Here we go. The Drake Lindsay era, far too cheap, even for a freshman. He was a top 25 recruit, one spot ahead of CJ Bailey on 24/7 Sports. I want to make sure you all knew that. And if any of you are familiar with the name Quincy Avery, he has been dubbed the quarterback guru, so much so that I think they did a documentary on Hulu about him. But he thinks that Drake Lindsay will be a top 3 quarterback in the Big Ten this year. He's 6'5", 235. He's got more talent around him in the running back and wide receiver room than the Gophers have had in a long time. And I think they're going to use this game to get his feet wet, even if they're up by a lot. So, long story short, 6,100 is too cheap. That's my bias. My unbiased opinion is for DFS that 6,100 is too cheap. Darius Taylor, we all know, up there with the best in college football. How involved is he going to be? Does he have enough to get there at 9K? But then they also brought in A.J. Turner, who averaged more than 8 yards a carry at Marshall last year. And Cam Davis always seemed to be second or third fiddle at Washington, but I could see him getting some of the share, like quite a bit of the share today. Especially if the Gophers get up early, they're going to see what this running back room is and how they mesh with the team. And now in the wide receiver room, some new faces as well. Logan Loya was a stud at UCLA as long as he was healthy. Javon Tracy, too cheap at 4,500. He's in from Miami of Ohio, and he was like one of the more explosive wide receivers they've had at Miami. Lamiki Brockington, possibly the most athletic guy on the team. He kind of didn't quite meet expectations last year. Jamison Gears, always bet the over on his receiving yards, unless, I did see they bumped him up to like 22.5. And then we have Jalen Smith, who's a younger kid that is getting a ton of steam out of camp. I think he's either a redshirt freshman or a redshirt sophomore. I don't remember exactly what class, but seems like he's getting a lot of love from coaches, and he's performed really well and formed a good relationship with Lindsay. And then Malachi Coleman is another guy I want to mention. You are familiar with him, Kenny, because he came from Nebraska. He's 6'5", 200 pounds. And the quote from PJ Fleck is that he has rare attributes and can do things that he hasn't seen too many receivers do. And he mentioned that he played for the Niners and coached the Buccaneers, so he's seen a lot of wide receivers, even at the pro level. And Malachi Coleman does things that he hasn't seen before. So, all right, I appreciate you all being patient with me during this time. I'm excited for Gopher football, but One thing I do want to mention before I pass it over to Kenny to give you a more objective look at this game. Coy Parrish is not on DraftKings, but he is going to play offense this year. Whether they start right away this season or not, he's going to kind of be like Travis Hunter was at Colorado. I'm not saying he's going to be Travis Hunter, obviously, but he's an All-American safety who they are working in on offense. So he'll play running back. He'll play slot. They might even play him at quarterback, whether Wildcat or not. So we can't play him, but what it does is it does temper some of these projections for the Minnesota skill players.
Yeah, gosh dang, dude, you got me all hot and bothered about Drake Lindsay over here. No, Minnesota's in a great spot tonight. Lindsay's probably too cheap. I mean, relative to the rest of the quarterbacks on this slate. Not really interested in anything from Buffalo. I guess Minnesota, I'm gonna have plenty of Drake Lindsay. Darius Taylor at 9K, and I mean, pricing's kind of tight. There's a lot of good, expensive running backs. Like, I think I might be kind of underweight on him just because of the blowout nature of the game. He might not get a full run. And also, I mean, last year he caught a lot of passes. I think the wide receiver room in Minnesota is pretty improved. So that kind of might lead me to be underweight. And on top of that, if there's a blowout, AJ Turner's probably going to get some run, possibly Cam Davis. And then like this receiver room, I guess the way I'm going to attack it is just look at the ownership. Like Drake Lindsay is going to be highly owned. He's going to take some receivers with him. I think the best spot is to take the shots on the guys that are lower owned. There's no depth chart for Minnesota. You know, whoever's pulling the most ownership in large field, I would probably try to be underweight on them, overweight on the maybe poorer projecting guys that could have a role. But yeah, that's kind of how I'm going to attack Minnesota in large field. But all in all, it's a great spot. I love having some Gophers in my lineup tonight. So.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, if you're saying it, then it must be true. You don't have a bias for Minnesota, so you heard it here first. Minnesota's going to lose 31-3, and it's because of all of the hype. I do want to mention too, Frost bringing the Natty back to Central Florida. Natty in quotation marks. UCF dubbed themselves national champions last time Scott Frost was there. So that's great. I'm hyped for Minnesota football. I'm hyped that I don't get an opportunity to play them in DFS very often. So this is kind of a treat for Bill. And then from my team to yours, I'll let you do a majority of the talking for Nebraska. But Dylan Raiola is back, and you got to expect that he's going to be better this year than last year. And he was fine last year. But 7,500 is a fair price, and it makes it easy to get him into your lineups and still have room if you want to play some of those higher price guys. Emmett Johnson is a stud when he's on the field, and he looks to be hopefully a workhorse. I know Nebraska's rotated guys in the past, but something that will also help Raiola is he also has some new toys in his wide receiver room. Dane Key is in from Kentucky. Naziah Hunter's here from California. Ja'Cory Barney was great last year, and he's got, like, you would expect him to be improved as well. And I know you have some thoughts on Barney and his style of play. I'll let you talk about that in a moment. But then on the Cincinnati side, a home underdog, Brennan Sorsby, good but very expensive. This running back room, we're not exactly sure what we're going to see. Pryor seems to be the guy, but Tawi Walker is really good. He was good when he played at Wisconsin. It was passable at Oklahoma, but it could be a two-headed attack. And then Cyrus Allen is probably too cheap for what his role appears to be. And then Joe Royer, another guy who we played when he was 4K last year, but is priced up a little bit. And then, another transfer in Caleb Goody from Colorado State. So there are some options here, but, just looking at the receivers, I don't know how many 5K guys I want to play with the value in other spots, but I'll let you dig in and break down this Nebraska-Cincinnati game a little bit more.
Yeah, and one thing I guess we kind of forgot to talk about last night. So this is a neutral site game at Arrowhead. Cincinnati is going to be wearing their red home jerseys. Nebraska is going to be in the all white. So it's, a neutral site, like semi-home game for Nebraska. Like there's definitely going to be a lot more Husker fans and Bearcat fans there.
That's a great point.
But yeah, so I don't know. Of course I'm biased, but I'm really hoping this Nebraska offense hums this year. We're pretty talented deep everywhere, maybe except for like running back. Raiola obviously has a pedigree. Emmett Johnson, I think in the slate, like he's like kind of the ultimate like cash running back. He had at least 5 catches in like his last 5 games or 6 games last year, something like that. Basically, when he started to contribute last year, when Dana Holgerson showed up, and that's another thing with Dana Holgerson this year, and getting an off season with this team. I'm really hoping the offense improves. Dane Key, obviously from Kentucky, he's kind of the projected alpha. Ja'Cory Barney has some comparisons to Tank Dell, who everybody knows is really great for Dana Holgerson at Houston. Barney's like more of a gadget guy. I don't think they didn't really use him downfield much last year, so I don't know if that's going to open up for part of his game or not. And then Zaya Hunter, just as good a pedigree as the rest of them. Like any of these 3 wide receivers, I could see having a ceiling game at any game. They're probably going to be a pain in the butt later in the year trying to decipher which one we want to play. But I think what position on the Nebraska offense interests me the most is the tight ends. Lennon Myers, the starter, but he's more of an inline guy. And there's Henrik Harburg, who was a quarterback for us, and now he's fully tight end. He's not having to play backup quarterback or emergency quarterback or anything like that. He's a great athlete. It'll be interesting to see how he contributes. And then Carter Nelson is a 4-star recruit, number 49 overall nationally last year. He played 8-man football in Ainsworth, Nebraska last year. Didn't redshirt. He was listed as a wide receiver last year, played sparingly. This year he's a tight end. He's put on some weight. All the ceiling in the world there. It'll be really interesting. If the tight end room wasn't so deep, I'd be way higher on Carter Nelson. That being said, I think that he could have a really sneaky good year this year.
We talked about it last night that if you're playing 8-man football and still getting looks from SEC schools, like there is something there.
He must be an absolute freak athlete because he did have offers from Bama and Georgia, small town Nebraska, kind of a weird deal. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm super glad that Nebraska's like you with Minnesota, they're playable. Nebraska's kind of playable across the board tonight in contests. And as far as Cincinnati goes, they're priced a little tight. I think there's some sneakier upside there. I think that, their offense should be good this year, and Nebraska's defense, I think I don't think Nebraska's defense is going to be bad, but we did lose our defensive coordinator. We lost some key transfers to Florida State where our defensive coordinator went. So interesting to see how it plays out. The main thing I want to see tonight from the Huskers is I just want to see the offense hum. Like, I don't think Cincinnati's a defense that really puts fear into anybody. But yeah, I'm excited for this game. I hope it goes well. Hope we're past the Scott Frost disappointments and on to the Matt Rule achievements. And so, it should be fun. I'm excited.
Is it too early to book our tickets to Indianapolis for the Big Ten Championship, Minnesota, Nebraska?
That would be so awesome. That would be 10,000 to 1 odds on that. You know?
Yeah. If that happens, I'll see you there though, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. There we go.
So Minnesota and Nebraska, not always viable in DFS, but we have a 6-game slate that they're priced in a spot where we can do it. This is a great day for myself and Ham Hock. And then a game we're not necessarily as thrilled about. 1, because it's a MAC team that's probably not going to do much, and 2, because it's Wisconsin. DeQuan Finn is back. And the MAC, he was at Toledo and then went to Baylor for a year, and now he's back with Miami of Ohio. We'll want to play him when we get to conference play for sure, or when they're playing another group of 4 team, a guy we're going to have on our radar. Kenny Tracy's kind of the same way. He's a guy that we're familiar with. Really all of these running backs. The nice thing about this is we'll get a glimpse of what this rotation is going to look like. And this is with all of the underdogs. We'll see what the rotation is, whether they're playable in DFS or not. We'll get some intel for the rest of the season at the very least. Colsey, Perry, Simmons. Simmons is cheap. Williamson is probably the most interesting one because he's from Florida. He came from Florida State and just never really got it going there. And now he's in the MAC. Anytime you get a Power 4 player that goes down to a G5 school, you look for them to have a solid season if they can get involved. But I don't even think he was on the depth chart. So that's a weird thing. The Wisconsin side, I do want to ask quickly if anybody knows where Paul Bunyan's axe is right now. It's at the Minnesota State Fair. Billy Edwards is in from Maryland. He's dual threat, so 8,000 is probably not too much for him. And then Dylan Jones is going to be the starting running back, and it's a great spot against a MAC team. Miami typically is a little bit slower, methodical, but I was a little shocked that Darian Dupree didn't get the nod just because of his playing time last year, but maybe Dylan Jones badgered the coaching staff into playing him instead. And then these wide receivers, these top two guys, Trej Kakahuna and Vinny Anthony, are really good players. They're just priced up a little bit. And then you look at the rest of the guys. Tucker Ashcraft is a guy that we would typically target in this game, but he's hurt at tight end. So that leaves Lance Mason from Missouri State, and then converted running back Jackson Acker. I have seen some stuff on Acker that they say this position switch is going to unleash him. Like, this is going to be a ceiling year for him. So maybe at 3,100, you take a shot on him. And then Eugene Hilton has been getting a ton of praise out of camp. We don't see his name here. And he's T.Y. Hilton's kid. And basically the coaching staff is like, we expected him to potentially come in and, have my dad played in the NFL attitude. Not the case at all. He came in, he put the work in. They could tell he had put work in. So he's kind of forced his way into the rotation as well. So we do have a projection on him at SHIPIT Nation, but without seeing it on the field, it's again, week one, we have to be a little bit more conservative, but remember the name Eugene Hilton.
Yeah, I don't know. This game's kind of gross. It's the lowest total game on the slate. I definitely don't have any interest in Miami and their big 12-point team total. And I just don't know how Wisconsin's going to translate. Like Trej Kakahuna, maybe. Mm-hmm. He had a really good game last year where he exploded. Wouldn't shock me at all if that happened. That being said, like Edwards and Trek, if you stack that, that's taking up a lot of salary that you could use on one of these better running backs. But yeah, I like Dylan Jones. There's, depending on how game flow, he's pretty fairly priced for what his role should be. But yeah, kind of the worst game kind of to end on here.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I mean, we can scroll back up. There's still comments about Minnesota and Nebraska in the chat. Michael Peterson's in a house divided.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, overall, part of the reason we wanted to do a show too is because the contests have some pretty big prize pools. There are some good games to watch. And also just a reminder too, we go through DraftKings on our shows and we have a stone for DraftKings, but we also have content for FanDuel games on our website. So that's one of the perks of being a SHIPIT Nation member. We'll cover everything. But just before we close, what are some just overall thoughts on the slate of where, like, is Wyoming Akron the sneakiest game, or do we think Jacksonville State can keep it close? What, like, if you were to rest your head on one thing that could set a player apart on this slate, where are you looking?
I guess I don't necessarily have I think any of them could. It's week one. It's like real volatile. I guess one thing I do kind of want to close on that hasn't really been talked about is I think we're going to see a lot of 4 running back tonight. And especially like with the Sean Patrick value opening up, I think it's going to be, I think it's totally viable. I will say when playing 4 running backs, make sure you're playing some good running backs. Don't be afraid to eat chalk playing a 4 running back lineup. Like don't play like 2 backups and then 2 of the starters. You want some studs when you're playing the 4 running back. You should already kind of be unique enough playing the 4 running back. So I guess that's just kind of the only advice with this slate. I mean, there's some good running backs to spend up on, and the quarterbacks are kind of expensive. And I guess that's kind of the thought that I have. I don't, none of these games, I guess, really stand out to me as one way better than the other. I think they're all kind of equal, with maybe the exception of Wisconsin, Miami, Ohio, equal in terms of like sneakiness, or could be a lot of DFS. I think it's good to spread out, not necessarily plant your flag on just one type of game flow here. Yeah.
And like you mentioned, if you're playing 4 running backs, the ownership doesn't matter as much because not many people are going to play 4 on a typical slate. It does kind of go back to a question: can we go 2 QBs tonight? I'm still like, especially when I play cash, it's almost always 2 quarterbacks. And on this slate, we have a good mix of expensive, middle, and cheap. So there are several different ways you can go, whether you go like a Lindsey Bailey or a Lindsey Raiola, or one of these 2 from the Akron, Wyoming games with an expensive guy, or you can go 2 cheap quarterbacks. You can pin these quarterbacks against each other and have room to spend up at every other position. So 2 quarterbacks is definitely viable. And then I also wanted to bring up that we have some trolls in the chat. I'm Ian with his Cincy Buffalo parlay. Ian's part of our team too, working hard behind the scenes. He'll be joining the show tomorrow. We're going to have another live stream tomorrow, which is a good reminder of the schedule. We will have another show tomorrow morning at the same time, 11 a.m. Lord's time zone. Ian will be joining me. And then Saturday, we'll still have a pre-recorded show for Saturday morning. And of course, all of our content is up on shipitnation.com. And I'll give you a little sneak peek of what the stone looks like. You get different colors, what kind of game we think it's going to be. The teams look prettier. And then we'll have projections, ceilings. As we get more data throughout the season, we're going to have grades for the pace of play, defense, for the pass and run, and then the run pass percentage for each team. But right now, we just don't have enough data with these new coaching staff and rotations to, confidently give that information. But like I said, now's the perfect time to get into Ship It Nation. Are there still room in some contests? That can be quickly answered. I haven't looked recently, but the last time I looked earlier this morning, there was still plenty of room. So here, on-air production meeting. Let's see what we got.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that.
Yeah, the flagship's only half full.
Yeah.
So
you got plenty of time to get in. It's worth the drive.
Yes, absolutely. Would you go 4 running backs in single entry? That's a little bit tougher for me, maybe since it's week 1, but typically that's not something I would do.
I personally am not. I definitely could see it tonight though. Especially, if you wanted to go like for those, higher end running backs, I think it's totally fine. I'm not, but it's viable for sure. Even in single entry. I wouldn't be surprised to see it in cash tonight, and with all this 4 running back talk, it's kind of like one of those deals, always play 2 quarterbacks unless we don't, kind of in the great words of DGen. But yeah, it's viable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's what, one way of saying it's week 1, do whatever you want. Just be smart about it. Have a reason that you're doing it. And then, a runza for Hamhock. I've only heard tell of runzas. I've never had one, but I'm very familiar. My wife lived in Omaha for a couple of years. So I know about the runza. I have to get down there and still try one.
Yeah, they're solid.
All right. Well, appreciate your time here, Hammock. I'm glad you could join us today. Your insight is always appreciated, but man, it's just the excitement of college football. We had to do something a little extra special for today's show.
Heck yeah, dude. It was a blast. I'm excited for the games tonight. And yeah.
Excellent. So we are going to end the show like we end every show in college football, honoring the big guy in the sky with his rule number 1, college football is fun. Never take any of these days for granted. Enjoy the process, enjoy your lineup building, enjoy the sweat. Just be thankful that we have college football on our TV and we have the opportunity to play it on DraftKings and FanDuel and Splash and everywhere you get your college football DFS fix in. Thank you for joining us today. It's good to see all of you in here. We'll be back tomorrow at the same time, but for now, let's ship one for the big guy.